Good morning, everyone. It is September 3rd of 2024. Thought I'd do my journal reading. Nathan Reynolds recommends some prayers done by Mary Lou Lake, and I've been saying them morning and night for about a week now, and I found it really very helpful. So I thought that I would do the morning prayer with y'all, and I know it's going to take a few minutes because it's a couple pages, but I think it's important. And I love the idea of this getting out there and people hearing it and more people saying it out loud. So here I am. It's called Prayers for Release, developed by Mary Lou Lake from the book What Witches Don't Want Christians to Know, the expanded edition. And I showed y'all that book last time. Excuse me. So here we go, morning prayer. Father, I declare that you are the one true Elohim, the most high Elohim, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I ask you to forgive my sins and cleanse me of all unrighteousness. Create in me a clean heart and renew a right spirit within me. Actually, I think I'll share this so that y'all can read along with me. Forgive me a moment while I get to it. And that way I can look at the computer instead of looking down. Father, I declare that you are the one true Elohim, the most high Elohim, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I ask you to forgive my sins and cleanse me of all unrighteousness. Create in me a clean heart and renew a right spirit within me. I plead the blood of Yeshua over my eyes and ears and over the eyes and ears of my family, so we can see and hear truth. And I ask you to shield us from all forms of mind control that can enter the eye gates and ear gates. And I have added, and the nose gates and the mouth gate and the skin gates. I declare that we have access to the whole armor of Yeshua according to Ephesians 6. Our loins are girt about with truth, and our feet are shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. We have the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Yeshua. As we commit our works unto you, our thoughts will be established according to Proverbs 16:3. Father, I ask you to apply the blood of Yeshua to any doors that I have opened to the enemy that I am unaware of. And I ask you to reveal these doors to me so they can be closed forever. I take the authority that Yeshua gave me over all the power of the enemy, according to Luke 10:19. I stand upon your word in Matthew 16:19, that I have been given the keys to the kingdom, and what I bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and what I loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. I take authority over the kingdom of darkness in every plane of existence that has access to me, and I bind the power of the enemy to affect me or my family, and I loose the power of the kingdom of God to form impenetrable shields in every dimension, above, below, and all around in the name of Yeshua. I stand upon the promise in your word that says that no weapon formed against me shall prosper, according to Isaiah 54:17. I stand upon the 91st Psalm that no evil shall befall me, neither shall any plague come nigh my dwelling. The 91st Psalm also promises that your holy angels have been given charge over me and my family to keep us in all our ways. Father, I ask you to send extra angels for reinforcement during times of spiritual warfare in Yeshua's name. Father, I ask you to forgive the sins of all my ancestors and the ancestors of my children and grandchildren. And I plead the blood of Yeshua over my DNA and the DNA of all my descendants, which cleanses our bloodlines of all iniquity. I bind the power of any generational or familiar spirits to attach or influence us, and I loose the power of the kingdom of Yeshua within us and around us as we keep your commandments. I declare that our family is free to walk in the blessings of Deuteronomy 28. I ask you to forgive the sins of all individuals being used by the enemy to combat our family and ministry. I ask you to forgive the sins of all their ancestors, and I plead the blood of Yeshua over their bloodlines all the way to the DNA level, breaking the power of iniquity. I ask you to break all of their occult power to the highest levels, making it impossible for them to be used by the kingdom of darkness to harm anyone. I ask you to save their souls, deliver, and heal them. I plead the blood of Yeshua over every action and every word spoken against me and my family, nullifying the demonic power. I command any evil spirit sent on assignment against me and my family to return to the places they were sent from. I bind these spirits from harming those that sent them, but I pray that their defeat in their mission would serve as a testimony of your greatness and the victory that Yeshua won for believers in Yeshua's name. Father, I ask you to remove my DNA and the DNA of my family from any hair, blood, or any other contact object in the hands of the enemy and break all conduits to our physical bodies in Yeshua's name. Father, I ask you to forgive the sins that have allowed technology to be used as a weapon against your creation. I ask you to place shields between me and my family and all broadcasts of the enemy through the airways, TVs, computers, phone lines, electric lines, and satellites. I stand upon the promise in your word that you are our shield. I ask you to purify our air, water, and food in Yeshua's name. Father, I ask you to forgive the sins done on the roadways, railroad tracks, and waterways. I ask you to forgive the sins of any individuals or groups that have adopted the roadways, and I ask you to break any occult connections that would give power to the kingdom of darkness. Father, I ask you to provide divine protection during any modes of transportation. I ask you to surround our vehicles with your holy angels to ensure safe travel in Yeshua's name. Father, lead me in paths of righteousness today and attune my ears to your voice that I may follow you. I ask you to fill me with a hunger for your word that I may know you more. I give you all of my praise, my worship, the honor, and the glory in Yeshua's name. Thank you, Father. Amen. So there's that prayer. I think it's awesome. And I thank you, Nathan Reynolds, for putting it out on your website and talking about it. And I thank you, Mary Lou Lake, for writing it. So that's awesome. And it just dawned on me. I don't need to look down to do my handwritten journals because I have dictated them, put them into a Word document, and put them in my computer. So let me find those. Let me find the date here. I wanted to have all my journals in one place. So that's why I did that. I must say it probably took about 20 hours, but well worth it because I was able to put it into, like I said, my PowerPoint. So this is March 23rd that we're working on. March 23rd, 2024. Okay, here we go. And you'll notice this little squiggle over here. That's just a note to myself that I have entered it under that particular part or parts. And if it's highlighted, it was so that I would know it's a particular part either talking or that I'm referring to. So March 23rd, 24. It's actually, and I can correct them, Anne and Andy are for when they want a dead body to F. Rocky can keep quiet and keep a secret. Wizzy does the spells. Now, I want to look at my sketches here because I took pictures and put them in here. Now, on March 11th, this is 2 weeks later, I did this sketch. I woke up, or it was the evening, and I was drifting off to sleep, and I saw this sketch, and it was a real, here's Anne and Andy. Now, Andy had this wild red hair, just incredible piercing blue eyes, and he was just keyed up with adrenaline, but sitting there, stiff and staring. And Anne was like a dead rag doll leaning against him. Dead body and face is what I wrote. And they're sitting on a bench next to on some street somewhere. And there was a stop sign there and also a traffic light that had no direction. None of the lights were lit up. And I just wrote on here Ragdolls, Anne and Andy. So there's that. Um, I probably should show you. Sorry, this is all coming spontaneously. I would have had it ready. I'll show you Anne and Andy. Let me see. As I selected them, see parts and then images. These are all the gazillion images that I have. Let me sort them. So here's Anne and Andy. I put them together. Oh no, that's the sketch. Oh shoot, do I not have it here? Dang it. That's because I gave them new pictures and I deleted the old ones. I shouldn't have done that, but let me see if I can find them on my PowerPoint. Yeah, because I left the old picture in my PowerPoint. So D, journal, parts, maps. And I'm using the most recent map. So it's going to take me a moment to find them. I have to remember where they are. Of course, let me get my list out here so I can find them. I got 179 parts now. Where's Anne? What did I call her? Dana. Her new name is Dana. Oh, where are you? There we go. And she is right after Jack Jasper. Okay, so here's Jack. You see how I added their story and any pictures from research. But here's Anne. This was her original picture, a Raggedy Ann doll. Now in my dream, she was not. She was more pale and less colorful. But so there's Anne. And now I need to show you. Andy came much later. He was given amphetamines and he was all hopped up. And why I called him Andy, I don't know, but they both came at the same time in a dream. And Andy was given amphetamines as a way to perform certain jobs. And you'll see as I scroll through here the different parts and stuff. Where are you, Andy? He's just crazy-eyed. Shoot. Sorry, there's so many pages here. And I don't have an index because I'm constantly adding. I gotta figure out if there's a way to put book or page bookmark something. And Andy comes after Laura. Laura Vision and Skylar. Okay. Oh, dang. Wrong way. Dang. I'll let you look at somebody else here. All right, we're almost there. Where are you, Laura? Come before Skylar. This is why I have everything on the computer. There's just so many of them to keep track of. So Skylar. Okay. Andy, where? Oh, we're almost there. Okay. Okay, here's Andy. Literally had these vibrant, obviously this isn't quite right, but he had this red crazy hair and these just eyes that were piercing. This is his new picture that he selected. So there's Anne and Andy. So I'll get out of there and start reading the journal. And oh, maybe I'll show you Rocky and Wizzy too. They are not too far back here. I think. Forgive me. And even if I had this ready, I'd still be scrolling because there's just so many. And they all say hello. Anne and Andy say hi. And we're going to show you Rocky, Wizzy, and okay, here it comes. Here's oh no, this is Tate. Is that Rocky? Is that your new name? I think so. I gotta look. Rocky, right. Riley is his name. Sorry, different guy. Here we go. Here's Riley, Rocky, who was hiding in the rocks away from the Black Mass. That was his image, and here he is now. He wanted to go swimming in the river that was right there. So that's Rocky or Riley. Now let's see. And then you need to see Wizzy. Her name now is Wisdom, but Wizzy was trained by my grandmother to be a witch. So, and do spells and perform things. Here she is. Here's Wizzy. She chose a new name, which is Wisdom. And there she is, because she's been with me my whole life and she wanted to be about the same age as me. She might even be a little older. But that's Anne, Andy, Rocky, Wizzy, and geez, now I've forgotten them all. And Andy, Rocky, Wizzy. Okay, now, oh, and there's Sandy too. Shoot. I'll show you Sandy. Darn it. Shit, we already passed her. Her name was Sadie because Rocky told what happened to him and then Tattletale, that part got tortured. And after that, Sadie was born, who was incredibly sad and despondent. So there's Rocky. So here's Tattletale, whose new name is Teresa. And here's Sadie, who is now Sandy. She's happy now. So just thought I would show you those parts. Sandy, the day after the Black Mass by the river, Mom woke up saying she had the worst nightmares all night. She said she thought she woke up on a beach and there was the most horrible, horrible things going on. Grandma told her it must be from a bad period. It gave her bad dreams. Grandma gave her painkillers for the pain. It was from being drugged and raped all night. Riley, who was Rocky, Riley's his new name. I remember hiding, and when the sun came up, my mom began to move her head. That's when I ran out to her. I dropped on my knees and said, Mama, Mama. She looked at me. Then they grabbed me. She was put in the van. We all went to back to Grandma's. Mom was given more drugs and a drink in the van. She was out again. Now, Tallulah is the girl who underwent a ceremony. I didn't discover Tallulah for about 6 months later. So I thought this was a different part. And I later re entered it. Her name was Athena. She was married to a boy named Corbin, who at the time I wrote this thought his name was Johnny. It was what they call analytical overlay. I don't know why I did that, but it's anyway, they were married in a Black Mass and they were said to be the next, mistress and master of the satanic cult when, the time was right 20, 30 years later. Anyway, Tallulah or Corbin, the cousin I thought of, and now this cousin wasn't my actual cousin. At the time I wrote this, I didn't know it. But like Nathan Reynolds explains, as they shift you around from people to people, and strangers, they'll say, "Oh, well, this is your uncle so and so," and so you assume that their children are your cousins, and that was the case with me. My grandfather's two lieutenants, in the Masonic Lodge, It was one of their sons. And so that guy was called Uncle so and so. I can't think of the name. I don't remember the name, but his son was Corbin. And, I was set to be the head witch, and he was set to be the next head mason. So Corbin, the cousin I was promised to, he was smacked and beaten for losing track of me. Don't you know you have to always keep a rein on your woman? This will help you remember. His dad, Uncle John, I put, and Grandpa kept hitting him. Maybe that's why I called him Johnny. He was like a rag doll. I was glad he was beaten and gleeful I had hit all night. I won that night. So another part pops up. And this is generally always while I'm drifting off to go to sleep. So if you see this line here, that means, I had, 2, 3, 5 minutes to start drifting again. And then more images pop in my head. In that empty room we slept in, Grandma kept testing us. That demon that flew in circles in a vortex was sent in a lot. And she's saying, I could stir up the vortex or stop it, north, south, west, east, and then spin it up or stop it all, and it would just drop to the ground. Jesus says to, and I could wind it up. And I'd say, now stop. I was taught that demon was called Jesus, but it was spoken like you would in Spanish, Jesus. So I'd say, Jesus says to, wind it up, and I'd say, now stop. But the Jesus spoken is Jesus. So you're calling on a pagan god. And now Kitten piped in. And there was a predator, Jorge. He fed me spicy food. Now, this is a completely different location and time. So different parts are popping in and out. I cramped up and suffered quite a while. I got diarrhea, and he wanted that. He would not let me use the bathroom. I just pooped diarrhea right in the lodge. I cried and was smacked quiet. He smeared the poop all over him and me and raped me. Some men painted lines on their faces with my poop. It made me ashamed and disgusted with myself. I didn't know I was made to do that. I was praised for it. I was in a lot of abdominal pain. I was smeared all over my back. I was on my knees and raped anally. And to this day, I cannot eat spicy food. I'm instantly on the toilet. So, anyway, Riley, who was Rocky. The day I was interrogated about hiding, I was starved all day. I was separated from everyone and in Grandma's basement. At the end of the day, Grandma said, well, at least we know she won't talk. I didn't tell a soul, not one thing. Mom was kept drugged all day in bed. Angie and Mary played all day. Dad helped torture me to talk. And for those of you who are new, Angie and Mary are my sisters. So again, drifting off to sleep, another memory. I remembered in 1991, around the time I had the dream when Jesus came to see me. Now this has nothing to do with the Jesus thing. It's a dream about 20 years later. I also had another dream around the same time, a nightmare with the bird mask on people. I didn't know what it meant, but I did sketch it out on paper so as to remember it. That was my first memory of SRA. It was suppressed again for another 32 years until now. And then I put insert sketch. So I showed y'all in the last journal entry, that image. Now Sarah's popping her head up. She had to do satanic rituals. And then when the sex parts came in, sex parts took that over. So she said they all wore those beak mags. I also had one. It smelled bad. I hated it. Angie and Mary would prance around in theirs like it was some sort of graduation ground. I guess we had become members of the cult, and this was our uniform. So Pumpkin says, and I wrote, Pumpkin is Dad's girl and compliant. She was about 9 years old. Kitten is the slut, the seductress. So that's it for this entry. Close that out. Oh, geez, now I've lost my spot. Sorry about that. That was what, 3, Where am I at? Oh, goodness. Come on now. Yes, Sarah Ann Rack. Okay, there we go. Now we're into the part Rebel. A new part pops his head up. 3:23:24. So that was, oh, I guess either the same night or the next morning, because at the time oh, this was the night before, because the B means morning time came after. So sorry, but it's out of order. Rebel. There was a night when Angie and Mary and I all shared a room, and Dad took Angie. After a short while, I said to Mary, let's go get Mom, which we were not supposed to get out of our beds. Mary got paranoid and said, no way. I built up my courage and got out of bed. This is when this part was born. We were supposed to stay in bed. I snuck down the hall into Mom's room. I whispered, Mom. She didn't move. I went to the bed. Mom. Finally, I took my hand and pushed her shoulder. Nothing. But I noticed there was a whisper in the room. I got scared. I could see nothing. I pushed her two or three more times. Nothing. The whisper came again. It was at my feet under the bed. I thought witches were there. I ran to my bed. Mary asked about Mom. I said I could not wake her, and witches were in there. Mary's eyes got big. We were quiet then. The next day, I went to look under the bed. There was a box. I now know it was a tape recorder. But at this time, I'm like, I think 3 or 4. I didn't know what this thing was. A few nights later, I tried again to wake Mom. This box whispered for her to not to notice. These are just the things I could remember. Your imagination. No need to talk to anyone. So she was being programmed under her bed. Dad would drug her, put her to bed, pop the tape recorder on, and she was programmed as she slept. I shook Mom this time. Nothing again. I'm sure she was drugged or programmed. I asked Dad about the talking box. He said, never mind about that. After that, it was covered and hidden deeper. It's dictation errors. It was covered and hidden deeper under the bed towards the wall, under her head now. Before it was under her shoulder. So that was Rebel. And I didn't discover this part, that it was an actual part, until I took my handwritten notes, dictated them into my phone, put them in the Word document. And I'm thinking, because I now knew so many different parts, I thought, well, who would have been brave enough to do this? It couldn't have been Rocky, because he was years later, and it suddenly dawned on me, duh, this is a new part. Because, Booger, y'all remember Booger lay in bed, anxious, freaked out, waiting for Dad to come get him, picking his nose, wiping it on the wall. Well, he had finally had enough, and he was like, he needed relief from the anxiety. So he thought, well, I'll be brave and I'll rebellious and go see if I can wake up Mom. And this part was born here. But I would have never discovered it if I hadn't reread my journals and moved it into these documents where everybody else is. So he was a part revealing himself. But at the time, and this time I wasn't working with a counselor yet, he would have just remained a little shadow back there. So I'm glad I found you, Rebel. And I should show y'all his picture. He is Rebel for you. Sorry. Again, I have so many. Let me figure out who he comes before or after, so I'm not scrolling 100 times. Where are you, little guy? Rebel, there he is. His new name now is Lucas. And he is way before Sandy. Okay. I'll show you Athena, who is Tallulah. She had a satanic marriage. It wasn't quite this pretty. It was on a beach. But this is what her new picture is. So she went from Athena to Tallulah. And let me find Lucas and Rebel. Who's Wizzy? Sorry. Yes, it takes work. There's Kevin. Here he is. This was Rebel right there. And we're not super happy with that picture, but she was just like, I've had enough, and rebelled and went to go get help, and um, never got discovered. I mean, except by Mary, who didn't tell. But now her new picture is him. His name's Lucas. He's a rebel. So there they are. All right. And now 324, 327. Oh, geez, these entries are so intense. That came later. Let me make sure I'm not going out of order here. 326. No. Oh, geez, do I not have this in here? Oh no, I just read that to you. 326. Rebel. So I got the wrong day on there. Okay, so I'm right. Okay, 327. Fatty, Sarge, Pumpkin, and Wizzy. So Fatty is the part that, in order to cope with rituals and abuse, she used to stuff her face with this sweet stuff to wash blood out of her mouth. Sarge is the one who keeps everything moving, get your job done, do your thing. She tells all the parts what to do. So Fatty made a deal with Sarge that she can eat all the sweets she wants as long as she burns it off and not get fat. So that's what I would do. I'd get high. I'd eat probably 1,000 calories of sugar a day. I know, it's gobsmacking. And then I would ride my bike for an hour a day and burn off like 700 calories doing that. So these parts making deals with each other. So the deal is to not get fat. I'm supposed to be appealing for my satanic man. Grandma instructed this. I must stay appealing and beautiful for my master. Sadie, the sad girl, says, fuck it, just kill it all of it, even our feelings. Anne and Andy come from that. Anne and Andy were also drugged heavily. Now, Andy was given amphetamines and Anne was given downers because Anne was supposed to be a dead rag doll for men to use. And Andy was an amped up personality to be accessed when we had to fight or kill or whatever. Now, Pumpkin is the girl that was Dad's sweetheart, Dad's lover in front of Mom, because she was trying to get Mom to divorce Dad. So Pumpkin sold Sarge to get to work and burn off the fat and shape up, because Pumpkin wants to be thin and beautiful. And Wizzy, the one practicing magic, just had a grand old time and gets whatever she wants. Sadie helps her. So this night, they're all just kind of chit-chatting and giving me stuff. So I'm getting to know their personalities and how they interact a bit. So next one. Ooh, wrong thing. Sadie, Lamprey, and Sophia, 327. Sorry. Three 27. All right, I think I missed one here, guys. 4-3. Oh, okay, this is the right one. I have to warn y'all that this is a very heavy memory and it's really quite disgusting. But, and I've talked to God about this. Does he really want me to just read the journal? And he's saying yes. So Here goes. I gave Dixie, that's my little dog right here. If you it's here. I forgot she can't have it. This morning she can't eat and it's very uncomfortable because the spice on it upsets her stomach. I realized Sadie, the sad part, did this and had to talk with her about not hurt. And I had to talk to Sadie about not hurting others. She doesn't care, but she didn't want me to know she did it. She told me about Thaddy and Sarge. And I said, what did anybody think about what Jon said and the chart? Oh, this is when I was watching Emma show and Jon Uhler was on, and the chart was there. And I think in the video, Jon said to ask your parts this, so I did. Um, so I just threw that in there, waiting for an answer later. So I was done, so I could not walk Dixie and freed up to watch Jon Uhler explain the ISF parts, leading me to find out he works remotely and thus send an email to ask for therapy. To really know that, need to talk to someone qualified, and that's what my family wants, meaning my parts, my family parts, my IFS family, which stands for Internal Family System. So I was learning this through Emma's podcasts. So I'd sent the email and I was waiting response. Now here's the memory, lamprey. The memory starts off with, and I was laying down to take a nap in the afternoon, and as I was just drifting off, I saw this and I was filled with adrenaline and waking back up. And I'm not really seeing myself, so I'm not sure what's happening here. There I am. Okay. The memory starts off with walking past a bed, which was just like a mattress on the floor of a barn, to a stool below two very deep, high steps. I climb up the stairs and through the opening/doorway. There's a trough filled with blood, cow's blood. I have to get in it. I have to go under and submerge myself. I'm naked. There are creatures in there. I am super stressed. I come up and out of it, and there's a mirror. I am all blood, just my eyes are mine. I have tears, but I do not make a sound. Grandpa has me come to him. He straps me to a board. He has a creature. He brings it out of the bloodbath. It is a sea lamprey. He shows it to me, says it will clean the blood off of me. It drinks blood. Now, I guess I'll show you the picture later of lamprey, but it's a disgusting creature. My heart is racing. My breath is fast. It had a cover over it. He had taken it off to show me and put it back on, kind of like a cloth sack or a condom. It crawled from my thighs into my vagina. It wiggles and sucked for a long time. It's like cloth so I could pull the blood through. I had a lot of adrenaline in me. I was highly tense. I feel it move inside me. Grandpa would use a turkey baster to add more blood inside our vaginas. And I said, our, not even realizing it. When the thing slowed down wiggling, it would liven up. They were about the length of his forearm and half as thick as his arm. He said, you'll love it. Trust me. His eyes were crazed. We were wiggling around, raising our hips, pulling out on our restraints, anything to have it stop. Mary and I were drugged, but still could be aware and move, just no screaming. My foot was going back. You know how you wiggle your foot? My foot was going back and forth constantly, as fast as could be, my right foot. Plus my knee is pushed out, just constant, a restless foot to distract me. I was also lifting my head, knocking out on the wood over and over, banging my head on the wood to distract me. As an adult, I have had images of snakes in my vagina and mouth, and it freaked me out. Grandpa was masturbating. Grandma came in and said it was time to come back to the house, and she walked off. It was like nothing to them. Grandpa had to pull it off from the inside of me. Somehow this cover allowed it to suck blood but not cut into me. He hosed us/me off, and I/we got dressed to go back in the house for dinner. Mom asked if I'd had a nice time with Grandpa fishing. Grandpa smiled and winked at me and put his finger to his lips. I/we just said yeah and looked at my plate. I stuffed myself into a coma and slept. And I put entry on 3:30 after the fact. I realized this is 3 days later. I got more details. It was not gags in her mouth. It was another lamprey in a cover, like a rubber glove fabric in her mouth. I remember it was only half in my vagina and half in my mouth, and its tail slapped back and forth on my thighs and my face and neck. That's why I was flinging my head back and forth, hitting. It was a distraction. Back to the previous entry. The wooden platter, if you will, that I was strapped to was already stained bloody. I was not the first. Grandpa said I was lucky I got the sleeve. I think that meant I was not going to be eaten alive from the inside out as the others had been. He showed me the open mouth of it. I thought it was an eel or snake. He said, no, lamprey. I didn't understand. Now I do. They live in the Great Lakes near to his house. And I will show you an image of a lamprey, and it boggles the mind, the depravity of these people. This is a lamprey. Look at it. And it sucks blood. It eats blood. Oh, geez, it's not big enough. You could see the scar that it made on this fish, and this fish has scales. Yeah, that's enough of that. And I'm looking this up as I'm remembering this. I keep hearing the loud crying scream of me or someone else. I also see Angie, Mary, and I all in the bloodbath. Angie covered my mouth. I was screaming because there was lampreys in that water, but I believe they had the covers over their mouths. Said to shut up or it will be worse. Mary was screaming too. Grandpa nodded to Angie that she was good. Mary and I were drugged. Angie was just had a crazed look. We were all tied down and eaten. Now, this is after they pulled us out of the tub or vat of blood. And anyway, Grandpa was orgasmic a lot. He loved it. And then I put add entry from 3:30 again. So what I was doing was taking these I got different details from two different memories. And so I was trying to put them in there as they happened. And I realized it wasn't when we came up out of that vat and I said, I thought I was looking in a mirror. It wasn't a mirror. It was me looking at Angie and Mary. All blood, just eyes, terror in our eyes. And now this is a side recollection as I'm doing this journal. Sophia, I added this later because again, I didn't have a counselor and didn't know these parts. Also, when Dad shocked me in the basement, he strapped me to a metal chair. So one part that was strapped with the lampreys is now triggering another part that was in a metal chair in the basement of my dad's house. He strapped me to a metal chair cloth seat and took the leads off of the battery jumper and clamped them to the chair. I think so as to not mark my body. When he shocked me through the chair, my head would slam back and forth. I got headaches. I have a headache now. So again, that previous part was remembering hitting her head, and it's triggering this other part that wasn't hitting her head, but her head was jerking back and forth. So again, I'm drifting off another memory. There was another girl. Now, this is back with the lamprey, the vat of blood. We're now tied down on these platters. There was another girl brought into the room by Grandma. She was put in the bloodbath. She was brown skin, about 4 years old. I believe she was Hispanic. She got in. Grandpa had us strapped down. He looked up and saw her. I looked up and saw this girl walking by past me upside down as she walked by. Then Grandpa took a tub full of lamprey, no covers, and dumped them in the vat with her. He came back and sat down to masturbate. There was splashing. Then the girl screamed. Grandpa got excited. More. Mary began to cry. We all had cloth gags on with lampreys in our mouth. The girl kept screaming. So I can hear screaming and muffled crying as I'm twitching my feet back and forth and hitting my head on the wood over and over. Then the screaming stopped, but Mary kept crying. Grandpa got off about 5 times. It's disgusting, these people. Okay, so 3:30. And again, this is very disturbing, but I want to show you when I was looking for a picture for lamprey, what I typed in. Lamprey in human mouth. Oops, shoot. Let me see if it comes up with the picture. If not, I've got it in my files. No, they took it out. They dropped it. It's literally someone made an artistic rendition of a lamprey inside of a human being's mouth. Oh, boy. Am I going the right way? I hope so. Yes, here we go. Here was the picture I found to represent lamprey. A lamprey, literally, in a human person with their mouth open from a mask with a lamprey. Who on earth would ever make an artistic rendition of this? My counselor and I were gobsmacked, but that was the picture I chose. So part name, snake. It said we did have a type of gag on. Grandma put them on. It was a rubber sack with straps going around our heads. It filled up my mouth. She left. Then Grandpa brought the lamprey to each of us, Angie, Mary, then me. All I could look at was its eyes and open mouth. Blood was put in the sack, and the lamprey moved in the sack, sucking. I was squirming and terrified it would eat me alive from the inside out. Then he put one in my vagina. I was freaked out, crying, moved my head up and down, back and forth. Then my foot and legs were shaking, twitching back and forth. It was horrifying. Then the brown skinned girl was brought in and put in the blood bath, that should say. Should be, it's like a vat, really. It's huge. It's probably 5 feet deep and 5 feet in diameter, this round, like I think what might be something that used to hold corn or was a cattle feed water or something. It was farm equipment. Grandpa put in the lampreys. She is screaming and splashing. Grandpa came. What is going on here? Grandpa came a few times, literally because he's masturbating, came a few times. Then she stopped. It was above and behind me. She was eaten alive, her blood to mix with the rest. Awful, awful, awful. And I don't think that I take this lightly, but I've probably reread this 5, 6, 7 times. And at the time I remembered, I was crying like crazy, had adrenaline surging through me. I was a mess. I was in a daze when we were let go and cleaned up. I kept wiping off my face and neck and thighs. I thought I would have holes in me from the lamprey. Grandpa had a disgusting, sick grin, and his eyes were black and shiny at the same time. Grandma just took it in stride. Just another day. We were told to bite down on this thing so it didn't fall out. And if it did fall out, we would get it even worse. Mary and I both let them fall out at different times. I saw Grandpa get up annoyed that his masturbation was interrupted. He had to get up and put it back in. He slapped Mary really hard, then put it back in. Now bite down or it'll get worse. That's what he said. I assumed she did. He sat back down. Then mine got loose. He got up again, annoyed, and slapped me on each cheek and put it back in. He said, now bite down. My face stung and hurt. That's when I started jerking my head back and hit it to distract me. So I'm drifting off again. Another zinger. At dinner, Mom saw how tired we all were. She said we must have done a lot of swimming. Dad took her to town all day. We all stared at our plates. We all went to bed early. I wet my bed and got in trouble from Grandma. Mom just cleaned it all and tried to calm down Grandma. Again, drifting. Grandpa would apply an electric shock on our feet from time to time. So not only is there this thing in our mouth and our vagina, we're tied down, we're listening to somebody being murdered, eaten alive in a vat of blood. And he's going to zap our feet with a cattle prod. It's just gobsmacking, just so evil. Anyway, he said, make our coochies clamp down and our mouth bite down. This was his way to keep us tense, like we weren't tense enough. I think this went on for a couple of hours. More blood in the sac and our vaginas. Our mouth would get tired until we got shocked. Then we bit down again. So there's that. I know it's disturbing. It's very disturbing, but the world needs to know what these people do. And I'm not embarrassed or ashamed at all to share these things with the world. And if y'all think there's no way I can make this up, none. There's just no way. And the images that I find on Google, I mean, who would ever draw this image, making a rendering of a lamprey? And granted, this is showing the lamprey pointing out, but it gives you the idea, right? So somebody in the world knows this happens. It's sorry, that picture disturbs me. Anyway, so snake, I'm just okay, so now we go to 4-1. And let me see how long we've been at it here. Stop share for a moment. I don't even remember when I started. I think maybe it's been an hour. I'll finish this little section and then stop. So share. It's 4-1. Oh, so I started working with a counselor now. And again, this is Jon Uhler. I'm not going to be hiding things and other than my husband's privacy because he requested it. So I think I was watching too or listening to some of his podcasts or something, but I got to thinking self-harm as a child and teen. Again, I add these in after the fact when I identify what part's talking. Number one, I used to bite my nails to the quick. I mean, and then also I would scratch itchy spots until they bled. I was accident prone, tripped, etc. whenever my dad was around. And I used to twirl my hair, sometimes super tight, sometimes two at once, and then pull on it. So that was, my self-harm as a child and a teen. As a child, I had no nails to scratch with. But as a teenager, I stopped biting them so badly. And then I had nails and I'd rip my skin open. Giselle. Now, this is the sexual person when I met my husband. I became accident prone again when I met Chris, but not as an adult. Before Chris, very adept and agile, but once I met my husband, I became accident prone again. And it dawned on me because he was triggering dad memories and I didn't know it. And so through my marriage, because I recognized at least that, I would say to myself, okay, we've got to differentiate. That was my dad. This is my husband. That was my dad. This is Chris. And I had to constantly differentiate. Okay, that was that place. This is this place. And just separate them out. And Giselle talking again. I now understand how and why I would orgasm with a vibrator and how unnatural and ungodly it is. The electric shock trained my body to have that cellular electrical orgasm from my clitoris because that was one of my tortures. And so Chris and I would have sex and I'd use a vibrator and I would re-stimulate that torture back then, which is, again, the level and depths of the depravity of these people. But as an adult, my cult part inside of me is acting it out, the sex part, thinking, oh, this is how you have sex. This is what an orgasm is. Well, no, it's not. And then, so 5 days after that, Willow and multiple parts. Willow is, used to, my part that's married to my husband, I called Miss, but she picked a new name and it's Willow. It's a full day and a half later. No need to record. Need to record soon after session next time. I feel relieved. I feel hopeful. This is after my very first session. I feel relieved. I feel hopeful. I'm surprised at what made me cry. The shooting in Milwaukee was so far from my mind. I never really thought of it as a trauma. To have Jon say so is validating. Scientology just tried to erase it. To be able to convey details about events was awesome. No one ever wants to hear that. But I have to say it out loud to someone. Now Jon is that person, a relief. I'm not alone. Yeah, this is my first entry at my after and first session. Yeah, that's right, because it was April. I showed Chris the video Jon recommended. Chris got his back up over the whole thing. Anger, anger, anger. Just fixated on the error on the news report. Didn't matter. I proved that it was an error. Just fixated on it. The whole thing being BS. He was drinking, as always. He always seems to want to compete for having the worst drama or anything. He still says to leave it all in the past. Doesn't get it at all. This morning, he was more reasonable and sober. He agreed to help me and be with me on the next session. He watched the video on predators, and this is where he liked and related to Jon. He would even talk about how he was like Jon. He had the same opinion as Jon, and it was only the Q&A part of the video. By the time we got to the meat and potatoes of the talk, Chris became annoyed again and was drinking. I turned it off because I didn't want to have an escalation of things. It really disappoints me to no end how little he cares to learn, what little insight he has, and how opinionated he is. I'm not sure what I meant. Oh, insight is what little insight he has and how opinionated he is. I feel like I'm irrelevant to him, but I know I'm relevant to me. It's lonely. So this is Mrs. talking apart. He did bring up Dick Fashing again. I asked if he had any missing time. He says no, remembers all of it. It was his birthday today. I made him a cake. All parts were quiet today. Happy to have gotten the journal sent off to Jon. Also, each time I think of the financial generosity of Jon giving me more help for no more money, it just tears me up. Who am I to get such a great gift? Who am I? I am the one who gives gifts, but for me, I'm blown away. A gift from God to me. I hope to be worthy of it. And I put on here, a part that doesn't feel worthy is not so quiet. Okay, so I'm drifting off. Time's going by. The nursery rhyme is going through my head. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf, the big bad wolf, the big bad wolf? And then someone else says, these are different parts talking. Not such a badass after all. What a wimp, I say. Go away. You're not needed or welcome. Go along to get along, I say. Woohoo! Who's afraid of the big bad wolf, the big bad wolf? Whatever, quiet down. She needs to sleep. Just a little bit of insanity, I say. So these are all, I'm just writing down whatever pops in my head. My parts are, they got to talk to Jon. They're awake and active and chit chatty. So, um, do I want to go beyond that? 4, 3. Yeah. Oh, I need to show y'all some pictures. Um, yeah, I think I will stop there. Let's see. Mhm. Yeah, there's one little entry. I think I'll put that on hold till next time, but I wanted to show y'all the sketches I did during this time period. So here is 318. I think you've all seen this about blue with the satanic baptism of me. And okay, here's Wizzy, the part that my grandmother was teaching with witchcraft. So there's me, grandma. She's like, good, good. Now cast your spell. So after practice, I could wind up the whirlwind with just one motion. She told me what to say. So we're next to a tree and I'm making the wind whirl around. And it wasn't until speaking with Jon about it, I realized it wasn't me doing it. It was a demon doing it. And they were making me believe it was me so that I could get a big head about it. So there's Wizzy and Grandma practicing. And here is, again, more Wizzy and Grandma. Next lessons for to do it in my, okay, so I whirled the wind up and then she says, now stop, throw it down. And so that's what I did. I threw the energy down and everything dropped. The leaves, everything became still. Again, a demon's doing this, but they're making me believe it's me. So that is that picture. I guess I can make it bigger. But yeah, I remember seeing the leaves just drop down and the air was clearing out. And the next sketch, oh, geez. Part named Stretch. This is in the basement with Dad. He would have me undress, standing on his workbench, which was here. Then he would have me strap myself up, hook my arms in this thing and make me have to walk out like on a plank far enough so the rope would, I couldn't, reach over with my feet and try and get down. But he would, he had his car battery and he would electrocute my vagina and body. He had an instruction book. There was my clothes there. He had a telephone for when his mother or father would call his little seat. And there's just a curtain dividing all of this from the rest of the basement, just a curtain. And I wet myself and there was urine on the floor and whatever. So, and then this one. This is the part named Trip. He went out with my cousin Cheryl, my sister Angie and Mary, and two boys named Johnny and Michael, except I think this was Corbin. And then this other kid here, well, they tripped this. There's a 2 to 3 inch steel plate, like 8 feet by 10 feet. And they had it over here. And they said, oh, let's go over here and look. And I tripped. And I think one of these boys tripped me on purpose and I fell into the hole. Well, this kid was waiting on the tractor and then pulled this metal plate over the hole. And I remember sitting there seeing this plate come, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? And all of a sudden, I'm just buried in this hole. And, and here's the barn where the lamprey rape happened up on the second floor in those stairs. And then there was that big vat, the bloodbath, and all that happened here. And this was where Grandma had me practice, the witchcraft whirlwind stuff. And so there's me stuck in this grave. And they all went off to play for about 6 or 8 hours. Or this is like 9 or 10 in the morning, and they didn't come back to get me till like 4 or 5 in the afternoon for dinner. and I'm in there thinking I'm buried alive and, not knowing if I'm going to die. And I believe I read that journal entry, but this was the sketch. So I will get off of all of that and I think end off for the day. But I guess what I want to convey is, let me stop share, is just how random the memories can come and how one part would be talking, go back and reread your stuff. And months after the fact, you're gonna, oh yeah, that part. They were talking to me back then, but I didn't know who they were. Fill it in, highlight it somehow, do something, or do what I do and put it in the computer, and then you can cut and paste and move it into the right spot. Because like you saw on my PowerPoint, I give them a bio page and then I put their journal entries under it. And so you can cut and paste and put it in there. And right now I'm just putting it at the bottom, at the bottom, at the bottom, and everything's all out of order. But at some point, I'm going to go back and say, okay, part so and so, we're going to work on just you this week. Let's take your story, print out these 5 or 10 pages, and see if we can't put it in chronological order, and you let me know if it's right or not. And then once it's correct, and I cut and paste and move stuff around, and we reread it, and the part says, yes, that's exactly right, then that will go back in the PowerPoint chronological and correct. So that's why I'm doing that. Let me get that. So, I share. Sorry, let's make sure I'm not sharing and not knowing it like last time. So anyway, I'll let y'all go. This is enough for one day. Thank you. God bless. If you get a chance, print out that prayer. I'll put a link in the comments section. It will take you to Nathan Reynolds' website. Getting tongue-tied here. And it's in the resources tab of his website, and it's just right on the top. It says prayers, and it's by Mary Lou Lake, and they're very powerful. Like I said, I've been doing them morning and evening for about a week now, and it's made a difference. So anyhow, love you all. Take care. I hope everything is going well for you, and see you next time. Bye.